celebrating 40 years of Indiana Jones. We're coming up to June, where it will actually be the 40th anniversary of the release of Raiders, our first introduction to Indiana Jones. So, we're going to look today at the first 12 minutes, 49 seconds of the movie, the introduction to Raiders of the Lost Ark, and the first time we ever meet Indiana Jones, when he was just Indiana Jones, not Henry Jones Jr. So, I just want to start by saying something that I noticed. I do notes. I'm old school. I do notes on paper. So when it comes to it, I've watched this a few times in the past week, and sitting down to do it, I thought I'm going to be basically writing what happens in each scene. But I noticed this actually on Monday. We're recording on Wednesday this week. That is actually a perfect 3-act structure.
Yeah.
There's a beginning, a middle, and an end where Indiana Jones, Jock, and Reggie the Snake go off into the sunset pretty much the same way that Denham Elliott, Marcus Brody, Salah, Henry Jones, and Indiana go off into the sunset in Last Crusade. It is literally a perfect 3-act structure, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, if you can structure a part of a film with 3-act structure, it's even more genius, isn't it?
Yeah, because you've got the introduction to the cave, you've got the cave sequence being the middle part, of course, and then as soon as the huge boulder comes after him, you got the conclusion to it, and I was like, wow, that is so clever. It's like a mini movie in the movie. James Bond, it's obviously a homage to James Bond, but to do it so perfectly, I was like, wow.
It's kind of, it's indicative of the fact that Indy's based on those Saturday morning serials, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they all probably they were short then, so they probably all had to have that 1, 2, 3 punch kind of structure, like introduction, problem, resolution / cliffhanger.
Because these serials would have been 30 minutes, so they've condensed it into 15. I never actually saw that aspect of it, but that is 100% right. That's brilliant, and it makes Raiders of the Lost Ark even more. I think my love of it has grown from the fact that they would do something like that, because it was meant to be a serialization.
Yeah,
in that period, and it's fantastic. I mean, just discovering that, I was just like, just wow. But the introduction right from the start, where you see the Paramount logo go into the rock formation.
Yeah, and that's an iconic Indy thing now, isn't it? That it turns into something else. I mean, isn't it a molehill in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Gopher, wasn't it?
Oh, was it a gopher? Was it? Yeah.
Gopher.
CG
Gopher.
CG gopher. I was just literally about to say that. Yeah. No. It's even just you don't see his face at first either. Because the first time everyone would have kind of been like, oh, I wonder what's this going to be like? What's Harrison Ford going to look like in this? And it's just, even when you watch it now, and we've probably seen it so many times, it's still like sort of watching that sequence for the first time, because you're like, even though it's technically, Raiders is technically a sequel, isn't it, to Temple of Doom, but it's just that excitement of seeing Indy for the first time and using the whip, and it's just it's been upgraded to my favorite action film. I told you this recently, didn't I? But yeah, it's just, everything's perfect about it. I mean, that's such a good observation, that even the opening scene is structured like a 3-act movie. I've never seen that done before.
I like it. You focus on, going back to what you said about the not seeing him. You focus on Sapito and the other one that betrays him. That's that shoots him. You focus on them more than you are focusing on Indy, who's leading the two of them through the jungle.
Yeah.
So you're introduced to Alfred Molina and the other one before you're introduced to Indiana Jones.
Yeah. So it's kind of how others see him, isn't it?
Yeah. And the bit where there's because there's 2 betrayals in the space of 12 minutes, and it's superb because you got the betrayal at the end of the first act, and you got the betrayal in the second, and when you see Indy walk from the shadows, and it reminded me of something I read about how he has the perfect silhouette.
Yeah.
So as soon as you see Indy with the leather jacket, the bullwhip, the hat, the bag, you know it's Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
So that was just, it's just, that's brilliant. And you left quite a long while before you find out where you are, before the screen comes up to South America, 1936. So you're left wondering where we are until they actually do the big reveal.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's good though, isn't it? Because it keeps the mystery going. You know, if this is the first introduction to Indy, then you want it to be sort of mysterious and sort of like the film's almost your guide through the jungle to meet him. You know, almost. I mean, any other sort of treasure hunter character is going to be indelibly based on him, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, Lara Croft is basically just a female version of Indy, isn't she?
Definitely.
And the way you can do it, other than it's just it's such a perfect. There aren't even A New Hope. I'd have to struggle to say it had a better 3-act opening than this.
Star Wars, I mean, was more, A New Hope was more about creating a universe nobody had ever seen before.
Yeah, whereas you've got here, haven't you? So,
and Star Wars, if you watch it now, is really A New Hope is really a slow movie,
which is something no Indiana Jones film feels like, is it?
Oh, even Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, they do have their moments, but what is that I mentioned already in this one about how he gets betrayed twice. So Indy can't really trust anybody.
No, because I mean, immediately after Alfred Molina, he bumps into Belloc, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So you set up our villain as well.
Yeah, and Belloc's laugh at the end of that as Indy's running through the jungles, like at the end.
Yeah.
It's just, I was expecting when I suggested this idea that this is going to be an interesting one to do, but once you just the analysis of it blew me away. The whole, because you think about it, you go straight from that. You've got a small scene with in the classroom that sets Indiana Jones up as a teacher.
Yeah.
Before you go into the definitive and exposition scene with a chalkboard, which we've already done a podcast on. Check it out. So you're literally hitting the ground running right from the start. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Belloc.
Yeah.
You did, and we've even got the first introduction to the villain.
Yeah, right at the start. So it sets you up for because I mean, it's weird. You watch it back now and you kind of think because it's like you say, it's a James Bond opening sequence, isn't it? Essentially. Yeah. So a lot of the things in those some of them are throwaway, aren't they? Like they don't have any bearing on the plot. So you would be forgiven for thinking like this guy's not going to turn up again. But it's just cool that he does, and that this is the setup, that he's the rival treasure hunter. He's the guy, Indy obviously knows him from before. And so you've got more sort of relation to the villain as well. He's not just a Nazi stooge.
And there's the payoff. There's nothing that you cannot find that I cannot take.
Yeah.
She does it again, but you do think this is just the beginning to set the character up. You don't expect to see him again, but it's so cleverly woven. And again, with the whole betrayal thing.
Yeah.
Can Indiana Jones trust? I mean, they do that. They play the same thing off again in Indiana Jones, and they do it in Temple of Doom when he gets on the wrong airplane.
Yeah.
And of course, Elsa Schneider in Crusade and
Donovan.
Yeah, and his mate in Indy 4.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It kind of reached parody in that one, though, didn't it? Where he's like, what are you, a triple agent?
Yeah.
it's done perfectly in this one.
Oh, it's brilliant. And the whole, you mentioned Forrestal. This is where Forrestal cashed in. Then you see how Forrestal died
Yeah,
with the booby traps, and it's constant. He's going from one problem to another problem to another problem. So the point where he gets on the plane, goes off into the sunset, is like kind of a relief.
yeah, yeah. Essentially, I mean, I think it's sort of setting up the formula for the whole film series as well in a microcosm. There's the lead in where they are in the world, the artifact that they're looking for, the traps, the escape, the betrayals. It's basically what happens in all of the films on a wider sort of scale, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's sort of it's easing you in gently to what's going to come afterwards. I mean, it sounds really strange saying that about something that does have a relatively simple plot. It's just an adventure, an action adventure story at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's not much you would think you could mess up, but it's just good that Spielberg takes the time to just ease us into it first and sort of say, this is just a bit of fun, and it's set in the time it's supposed to be, that the serials are from, so go and have fun. This is what's going to happen. I think it's perfect like that.
I mean, last year we could have done Indiana, could have done Empire Strikes Back at 40.
Yeah.
I think Raiders, because you can look anywhere and you can find a lot of stuff about Star Wars,
Yeah.
But I think Raiders and Indiana Jones is, I mean, it's not disrespecting Star Wars, we're both huge fans, but Raiders and Indiana Jones is a more interesting thing to cover.
Yeah.
And, and dissecting it like this is just, I mean, the whole thing of Guardians of the Galaxy, with the bit with Star-Lord and the orb.
Oh yeah.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, the bit where the bag, and John Williams' music. We haven't mentioned that. John Williams' music which is, it's not as heroic as it is in the rest of the movie when Indy comes in, but it aids the movie, and you just take time to listen to it, and it helps create the atmosphere. Superb.
Well, I mean, what else can you say about John Williams? Even though Superman's probably my favorite of his scores, I think this is the most I don't know. It's one of the most iconic. Definitely, it's up there with Star Wars, isn't it?
Definitely.
It's one of those ones that everyone could hum to you.
Up until a few years ago, I actually saw the soundtracks on CD for the first time.
Yeah.
I bought them all because, I already had 4, but the first 3. And when I heard Raiders, it completely blew me away. I mean, more than any score has. And to me, Raiders ranks as my favorite body of work. That score is my favorite. I like John Williams and I love my film scores, but to me, Raiders all the way. And I think it's got the perfect hero theme.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But the thing with John Williams is you're not just getting you're not just getting a score that's banged out in a couple of weeks. He's said in loads of like interviews and stuff before, I think, about he's writing his own story with the music, and if you're not invested in the music, then why should you be invested in the people it represents and the situations it represents? And it's that old classical style of music, isn't it, where the mood, the characters dictates the music rather than the other way around. With a lot, I think a lot of scores sound samey now.
Yeah,
they all sound Hans Zimmery, and even Danny Elfman's starting to sound a bit tiring now, isn't he? But John Williams has never put in a bad score.
No,
never.
Going slightly off subject, but I tell you what is a good score is, which really you don't really think about, is Jaws.
Yeah, it's so simple, isn't it?
Yeah, but
I mean, isn't it a heartbeat or based on a heartbeat?
I think so.
The whole doing it sort of it gets faster and faster and faster because you get more scared, and that's genius. That's so simple yet genius.
But it's the other stuff, like the bit at the end where they're going to shore, and it's the sense of relief. It's more than just the one piece of music, but people just know the
yeah.
But sometimes it's the quieter moments.
Yeah.
John Williams excels in just as much as the hero theme.
Yeah.
But
and I mean, even gives like the villains their own, everyone's sort of got their own theme. There's the Marion theme and, the theme for the Nazis and like the Ark theme itself as well, which they sort of mock in Last Crusade, don't they?
Yeah.
It's just, he's like takes you on a journey with his music as opposed to a lot of film composers.
We'll go back to something you said earlier about the 1940s style serials.
Yeah.
Tarzan swing at the end with the vine rope.
Yeah.
And the bit with with Indy running from the Jovitos.
The whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always remember that.
Oh, that's brilliant. And the little nod to one of the first two nods to Star Wars, OBCPO on the biplane.
Yeah, I was trying to remember what it said on it originally, and then later on it's the hieroglyphs, isn't it?
Yep, R2-3PO. It is, and I like the bit where Jock goes to Indy after Indy says there's a snake in the plane. Grow a backbone.
Yeah,
it's superb where you find out Indy's hatred. He's just done through all this. He had spiders all over him, and yet he's scared of the snake.
Yeah, like a boulder nearly crushed him.
Yeah, and that's the thing that freaks him out. And I thought that was superb, but it's.
See, they're even setting that up for later as well, where I hate snakes, I hate them. And you sort of think, oh well, why does he hate them? Well, I don't think like until Crusade you never find out why, but they replay the whole, oh, why did it have to be snakes, don't they? Like, and it's like one of his quirky little character things.
I love it.
It makes him more like us, doesn't it? He's scared of something.
I like when Salah goes, asps, very deadly.
Yeah, just to make it better.
And the callback in Last Crusade where you find out why he hates snakes.
Yeah.
And where he gets his hat from, which we will be covering Temple of Doom and Last Crusade,
and Scar as well.
And Scar with the chin. Yeah. Let's go. Last Crusade. I'm going to save it for Last Crusade. Last Crusade's got some really good stuff in it. But if you haven't watched Indiana Jones in a while, and you come to it, and for me, Raiders is one of these films which you can analyze. I mean, we've said for a long while, Star Wars in terms of scene for scene is the perfect movie because it's been parodied or homaged in some way. But when you look at it, Raiders is equally as important, and it's things like the introduction.
Oh yeah.
Which make it, and eventually, because we are doing a celebration all year of everything Indiana Jones, we will be doing a commentary track, and I'm looking forward to actually sitting down and doing this, analysing it.
100%. There was another point as well, when you bring up all three of them, each of them has a unique, unlike the other introduction, doesn't it? I mean, the Raiders, you have Raiders as well, when it wasn't called Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's the intro scene we're talking about where you first see Indy. Then you go to Temple of Doom and it's like a musical with Willie singing. And then you go to Last Crusade where Indy's a kid and a Boy Scout. They're all different openings that really add to that indie flavor. Like each one is a different adventure, and this is why.
They're all fun as well.
Yeah. Even Crystal Skull is like it's enjoyable.
If you said you didn't enjoy it on first viewing, I'd call bullshit.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, Phantom Menace syndrome, that is, isn't it?
Yeah. Which I just want to put a bit of a shout out to our podcast on commentary track on Phantom Menace, underrated, which I know a lot of people will disagree, but this is our opinion, so feel free to check it out.
More relevant now.
Definitely more relevant now, but it's, like I've said, I mean, we haven't mentioned it yet. The story, Philip Kaufman and George Lucas.
Yeah.
Spielberg, Lucas's first big team up.
Wasn't it? I think it was always sort of George Lucas that he sort of owns more of the character, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But I think like you can't not associate Spielberg with Indiana Jones. Like that's equally his he brought that to life.
I see Indiana Jones as being the property of three people:
Yeah,
George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and Harrison Ford.
yeah,
And it's going
definitely.
to be weird seeing a fifth Indiana Jones without directed by
Yeah,
Spielberg. And it
almost
was
sort of blasphemous, isn't it?
it doesn't. I'm not going to say anything bad about the film because it's not been, they haven't shot a roll of film on it yet,
No.
or digital, however they shoot films. But I'd like to have seen Spielberg do a Dick Donner and directing all of them. As he did
Yeah.
Lethal Weapon, and it just doesn't seem. Indiana Jones seems, it to me has always been Lucas, Spielberg, and Harrison. So, yeah, it is Steven Spielberg. I mean, to treat the Nazis like that, then go on and make I personally define as the greatest film ever made, Schindler's List, is it's just
But
he's
it's clever as well, isn't it? Because you can do whatever you want to them, violence wise, or you know, whatever, and no one's going to be like, that's a shame, because they're the Nazis. Like, they're all as much as they're like a horribly terrifying thing from history. They're also, it's fun to take the piss out of them, isn't it? That's how you fight back as well, isn't it?
yeah,
It's just like they're cartoon Nazis in this, aren't they?
yeah.
They're not real disrespectful, sort of like they're not. It's not disrespectful because who wouldn't take the piss out of them?
They were the villains in the time period in which the film was set, is set.
Yeah,
So it's obvious that they would be used.
it's like the whole Jojo Rabbit thing, isn't it? Where they said to Taika Waititi, like, do you not think it's insulting to your ancestry to play Hitler? And I think he said something like, well, I can't think of a bigger fuck you than a Jewish
Easy and Jew.
yeah playing Hitler, and it's the same thing here, isn't it? Make them silly.
If you can laugh at someone, it takes away the power.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And with if you haven't seen Jojo Rabbit, check out Jojo Rabbit.
Oh, it's superb.
That's you laugh, you cry, you think. If you make people laugh, you can make people think. It's getting into people's heads.
Yeah.
I mean, Indiana Jones doesn't treat the Nazis in the less educated way. It's more of a Hitler was looking for that sort of artifacts. So, but that's for another. That would make a good the portrayal of the Nazis in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, the Nazis and the occult's always been like a sort of staple of fiction, hasn't it?
Yeah, and they continue with Last Crusade.
Yeah,
Which, yeah. So, I got to admit, like I said, I really thoroughly enjoyed researching this one.
yeah. I watched it a few times just to sort of make it picture perfect in my head.
Because it's enjoyable to watch.
Of course it is. Yeah, it's like you say, it's indie on a microcosm. It's the whole film in one introduction. The structure of one film.
So we will be continuing. Sorry, would you like to say some last?
No, just I like you say, it's perfect, and I really like the analogy of the intro being a 3-act intro. I think I've never even noticed that before, but I won't unsee it now.
I will say thank you, and I'm going to be honest with you, and to the listeners, I was expecting to just write notes.
Yeah,
because I watched it and I was like, yeah, you write notes so we can comment on sequences. And then when I was doing it, I literally put little notes on the side of my page, thinking, well, this is actually working out. Then you watch it back again. And go, oh. So it's when you're dissecting films on a more of an academic level, it's actually you notice things like that. You go, wow, this is just so. This is the pleasure in it.
yeah,
and the pleasure in film studies.
yeah.
So this has been Raiders at 40. I've been Stevie W.
And Callum.
I really thought we were going to struggle doing